Everyone on the alien outpost laughed at the human. He wasn't strong. He wasn't fast. He didn't know how to use their machines. They called him soft-skin and slow thinker behind his back. Even when he heard them, he never got angry. He just smiled and kept doing his job, cleaning, fixing wires, or helping carry tools. To them, he was just an earth helper. A joke, but one alien girl watched him more closely than others. She had blue skin with glowing lines. Across her face, markings of royal blood. Her name was Alari, and she was bold, proud, and loved challenges. One day, she stood with her friends in front of an ancient glass case deep inside the outpost vault. Inside the case was a strange black armor, thousands of years old. It belonged to her ancestors, warriors of the old empire. No one had ever worn it in modern times. Some believed it was cursed. Others believed it would never work again. Alari laughed. I bet even this old armor wouldn't wake up for him. Her friend smirked. Let him try. That would be funny. The human, standing nearby, raised an eyebrow. What are you all talking about? Do you want to try on real armor? Alari said with a grin. Ancient royal armor. He looked at the case, unsure. I wouldn't want to break something important. Oh, don't worry, Alari chuckled. It's been dead for centuries. You won't break anything. The others laughed. It was a joke to them. They just wanted to see him fail. The human hesitated for a second, then nodded. All right, why not? Alari opened the case. The armor was dark, smooth, and covered in alien symbols. It looked heavy, powerful, mysterious. Everyone watched closely as he reached out and touched it. Then something strange happened. The armor shimmered. A low hum filled the room. Glowing lines crawled across the surface like waking veins. The lights in the vault flickered. The human pulled his hand back, but the armor moved by itself. The chest piece flew toward him, slamming into his body and locking onto his chest. He fell back, gasping. The gauntlets latched onto his arms. The helmet hovered, scanning his face before lowering onto his head. What's happening? Alari shouted. The room shook. The symbols on the walls long dead lit up in golden light. Alarms started to blare. Security bots rushed to the vault doors, but stopped. They scanned the human and froze. A voice, ancient and deep, echoed through the walls. Air accepted. Bloodline confirmed. Armor activated. Alari's eyes went wide. No, that's not possible. The other aliens backed away, whispering in fear. The armor pulsed with energy. It wasn't just a suit, it was alive, and it had chosen him. The human slowly stood. His eyes, now glowing faint blue through the helmet's visor, looked around in confusion. I don't feel like myself, he said. His voice had an echo, a strange vibration. Alari took a step forward. It shouldn't respond to you. It should only work for my bloodline, my family. He looked at her. Then why did it choose me? No one had an answer. Suddenly, the entire outpost lights went dark for a moment. Then, a glowing hologram appeared above the armor stand. It showed a galaxy map and a blinking red symbol approaching their planet. What is that? The human asked. Something old, Alari whispered. Something we thought was gone forever. The hologram showed words in ancient script. The armor translated them aloud. Dread fleet detected. Protector initiated. The aliens stared at each other in silence. This wasn't just a joke anymore. This was a warning. And the only one the armor had chosen to fight was a human. Alari looked at him differently now. Not with amusement, but with fear and a small spark of respect. Maybe he wasn't just a joke. Maybe he was something much more. Asterisk. The next morning, the alien outpost was silent. Everyone had heard the news. The ancient armor, the one that hadn't activated for 1,000 years, was now alive. And it had chosen a human. No one could explain it. No test, no scan, no bloodline check made sense. The armor should have rejected him. But instead, it wrapped around him like it had been waiting for him all this time, inside a dim chamber deep. In the outpost, Ilari sat in front of a glowing archive stone. Her fingers moved quickly, searching old records, family lines, and lost texts. She didn't understand how this happened. That armor belonged to her ancestors. Her family protected it for generations, now it had chosen someone else. Not even a noble, not even an alien. A human. It doesn't make sense, she whispered. The stone displayed an ancient legend, half erased by time. Ilari's eyes narrowed as she read. When the stars grow cold and forgotten warriors stir, the armor shall rise again, not for blood, but for heart. Not for name, but for soul. She stared at that last line, not for blood, but for heart. Could the armor really choose someone? Not by family, but by something inside? Meanwhile, the human sat alone in the training dome. He wore the armor still, though it had changed. It wasn't glowing like before. It seemed calm, like it was resting. He looked at his hands still covered in smooth black plating, symbols. Glowing faintly across his arms, he felt strange. He wasn't in pain, but something inside him had shifted. His body felt stronger, more awake. Like he was connected to something much older than himself. The outpost commander entered the room, his eyes sharp and suspicious. "Take it off." I can't," the human replied. "It won't let me." The commander frowned. "You're not the rightful heir. You're a security threat now. That armor holds dangerous energy." "I didn't ask for this," he said calmly. "But it chose me." The commander didn't trust him. Orders were given to monitor him day and night. Some aliens even whispered about removing the armor forcefully, but none dared try yet. Ilari came to visit him later. She stood a few steps away, arms crossed. "Do you feel different?" He nodded. "Yeah, like I've got someone else's. Memories, flashes of battles, voices I don't know." "That's the armor," she said. "It holds echoes of the past. Thoughts of warriors who wore it before. Maybe it's trying to teach you." He looked down. "I don't know how to control it." She hesitated, then sat beside him. "I can help. I was trained in our ancient ways. Just in case I was ever worthy. I never was, but maybe you can be." The human smiled. "You sure? Helping a softskin might damage your pride." She smirked. "Don't let it go to your human head. I'm only doing this because I don't want you to blow up the outpost by accident." From that day, they trained together. Ilari showed him how to move with the armor, how to feel its pulse, how to calm it when it surged with too much power. Sometimes, the armor acted on its own, protecting him when something fell, pushing his body faster than it should move, or forming a shield without him asking. "It's learning with you," Ilari whispered one day. "It's not just old tech, it's alive, and it's watching." They both knew something was coming. The holograms. Red signal hadn't stopped blinking. A fleet, far away but growing closer, kept sending signals toward the planet. One evening, the human found a new chamber in the vault. The armor led him there, opening a sealed door that no one else had ever touched. Inside was a round room, glowing with starlight. In the center stood a tall obelisk covered in symbols. He reached out, and the armor pulsed. The obelisk came alive. It projected a memory, so real. He thought he was there. Flashes of fire in the sky. Alien warriors in the same armor, fighting. Back a black swarm of machines. The voice of a dying queen echoed. "To whoever wears this armor next, know this. You were not chosen by name. You were chosen by will. The enemy returns. If you see this, then hope remains." The vision ended. The human collapsed, breathing hard. Ilari rushed in and helped him up. "What did you see?" He looked at her, his face pale. "They weren't just stories. The Dread Fleet, it's real, and it's coming. She didn't laugh. She believed him now, because deep inside, she had felt it too. The armor didn't just pick a human. It picked the only one who still had the courage to stand when everyone else forgot how. Far beyond the stars, something old had started to move. In the silent black of space, massive ships drifted forward like ghosts. They were not made by hands. Their hulls were not metal, but bone and machine fused together. Lights flickered inside. Them red, cold and watching. These were the ships of the Dread Fleet, and they were waking up. Back on the alien outpost, the warning signal continued to blink. Every few hours, it pulsed again. A red dot on the map. Getting closer. At first, the aliens on the station ignored it. They believed it was a glitch, an old system reacting to a false reading. But when the armor awakened and chose the human, everything changed. Now the outpost was filled with fear. Meetings were called. The council argued for hours. We should call for help, shouted one alien. Send a message to the high moons. They won't believe us, said another. Not until the ships are already here. They'll believe this, Ilari interrupted, slamming her hand on the table. The armor is awake, and it chose a human. The room fell silent. The human stood beside her, still wearing the armor. Its soft blue glow filled the chamber, and its markings pulsed with slow power. We saw a vision, he said. The Dread Fleet is real. They destroyed worlds before. They'll do it again. An elder alien shook his head. Those were myths. Stories to scare children. No, Ilari said. They were warnings. And we ignored them. The commander frowned. Then we have one question to answer. Will we fight? Or will we run? Outside the council room, the human stood alone on the tower's edge, looking at the stars. He had never felt so small. The armor gave him strength, yes. But what was strength against a whole fleet? He didn't even know how to fly a ship. What? If I can't stop them, he whispered. A voice came from behind. Then at least you'll stand while others hide. It was Ilari. She walked up beside him and looked into the sky. I read more of the old stories, she said. When the Dread Fleet comes, the armor always lights up. It only moves for someone brave enough to face them. He smiled weakly. I wasn't trying to be brave, I just touched it as a joke. She glanced at him. Maybe it doesn't care why you touched it. Maybe it cares what you'll do now. Suddenly, the sky above the outpost cracked with noise. A ship dropped out of warp. A small one. Torn and sparking. It crashed into the sand beyond the gate. Everyone ran to see what it was. The human, and Ilari stood at the front as the wreckage hissed and steamed. The door opened. Out stumbled an alien soldier, his armor half destroyed. His body burned. He gasped, "They're coming." The crowd froze. He looked up, eyes wide with fear. They've already taken the moons. They're eating stars, consuming systems. We tried to stop them, but they don't die. The human stepped forward. What do they want? The soldier coughed. They don't want anything. They exist to erase life, to make everything silent. Then he collapsed. The armor on the human flared brighter. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Ilari looked at him. You felt that, didn't you? He nodded. Slowly, it's warning me. Later that night, the human couldn't sleep. He walked the halls alone until the armor lit the path itself, guiding him toward a sealed chamber. The door opened only for him. Inside was an ancient simulator, a place once used by warriors to prepare for war. As he entered, the chamber came alive. Holograms surrounded him, giant Dread Fleet ships, swarms of drones, strange weapons that twisted through space. He fought them in the simulation again and again. He lost every time, but the armor remembered each move. Every time he failed, it learned. Every time he died, it adapted. And after hours, he finally stood at the end of a simulation. Not dead, but victorious. His chest heaved. Sweat dripped down his face. The armor spoke softly. Threat response, acceptable. Readiness level, 31%. He blinked. That's it. The armor didn't reply. The next day, the red signal on the star map grew bigger. A ship was approaching, not the full fleet. Just a scout. Alari stood beside him in the launch bay. This is it, our first test. He nodded, stepping into a sleek alien fighter, the armor connecting with its systems like they were one. He looked back at her. If I don't come back, she interrupted. Then make sure they remember your first strike. He smiled. Then he flew into the sky. Where the real war was only beginning. Asterisk, the stars were quiet again. The scout ship from the Dread Fleet had been destroyed. Thanks to the humans. Surprise attack. His armor had fused with the alien fighter, giving him faster reflexes and stronger shields. The outpost cheered his return, but deep inside, the human knew the real battle hadn't even started. That was just the first piece of the storm. Now. He needed to become more than just lucky. He needed to become ready. The very next day, Ilari stood in front of him in the training dome. She held two glowing rods, ancient training weapons used by her people. They couldn't kill, but they could knock someone flat on their back in a second. Let's begin, she said, tossing one to him. He caught it awkwardly. I've never used a weapon like this. Exactly, she replied. Time to learn. The Dread Fleet won't wait for you to figure it out later. She attacked without warning. He barely dodged. The stick hit the floor inches from his foot. Sending sparks flying, he jumped back. You could have told me first. You won't get warnings in war. She charged again. He raised his rod to block, but too slow. She spun and kicked his legs. He fell flat. The armor softened the fall. But his pride still took a hit. I thought the armor made me stronger, he grumbled. Ilari helped him up. It does, but it doesn't think for you. It follows your will. If your mind is weak, the armor is weak, he nodded slowly. Then let's go again. For hours they trained. Again and again, she knocked him down. Again and again, he got back up. He began to learn her movements, guess her next strike, counter her footwork. The armor began to move faster, like it was sinking with him. By the end of the day, sweat dripped down his face. His breath was heavy, but he was still standing. Not bad, she said, finally offering a small smile. Still got teeth, he smirked, wiping blood from his lip. But physical training wasn't enough. The next day, the armor led him to a secret chamber, one that even Ilari didn't know about. The door opened only when he placed his hand against it. Inside was a quiet room filled with holographic statues. Old warriors stood frozen in time, each one wearing a version of the armor. The walls pulsed with soft blue light. Then, one by one, the statues came alive. They spoke not with mouths, but through thoughts. You wear the skin of the ancient protectors. You are not of our blood, but you may hold our memory. Do you accept the trials? He nodded. The chamber darkened. Suddenly. He was no longer standing in the room. He was inside the memory of a past war. His body felt different, his voice not his own. He was one of them. He saw battle, he felt terror. He fought beside alien warriors, blade in hand, flying through the stars. Each memory ended with pain, and each one gave him knowledge. He came back to himself hours later. Gasping, the armor whispered. Softly, trial complete, reflexes enhanced. Skill protocols unlocked. Now he could see battle differently, predict moves before they happened, respond faster, feel danger before it arrived. Back on the outpost, Ilari watched him fight training. Bots. She crossed her arms. Eyes narrowed. He was faster now. Smoother. Like someone who had lived through 100 battles. You're not the same man who came here, she whispered. He didn't hear her. He was locked in. One bot rushed him. He dodged and struck its core in one motion. Another flew from above. He jumped, used his armor's built-in boosters to flip, and slammed it to the ground. The room fell silent. Even the guards watching clapped softly. He turned to Ilari. "Was that acceptable?" She gave him a rare grin. "You just passed the trial most of our elite soldiers fail." He smiled, but only for a second, because the red light on the wall pulsed again. The real fleet was coming. Not a scout, but a full battle wing. That night, the armor showed him something strange. As he rested, it activated a quiet message inside his mind. A voice, female, calm, ancient, echoed softly, "Protector. If you are hearing this, then I am gone. But the armor remembers, and it will teach you everything I could not." He saw a woman, an ancient queen, wearing the same armor, standing alone on a burning world. "We lost everything to the dread fleet, but we built the armor to remember, so that someone one day could stand where we fell." The human's hands clenched into fists. He knew what he had to do. He woke up early the next morning and walked to the hangar. Ilari met him there. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To the moons," he said. "The ones they already took." "Alone?" He shook his head. "The armor won't let me be alone." "Not anymore." She looked at him for a long second, then tossed him a blade. "Then you better take this too." He caught it, smiled, and stepped onto the ship. The Protector had begun his rise. The council chamber smelled of cold metal and old pride. 12 alien leaders sat in a perfect circle, their robes glowing with symbols of rank. The air buzzed with quiet anger, though no one raised their voice. In the center of the circle, Human stood. His armor gleamed darker than usual, the symbols faint but alive. He had returned from the outer moons alone and with proof. Recordings of ruined cities, swallowed by dark mist and crawling with machines from the dread fleet. He placed the memory crystal on the table. "This is what I saw," he said, "and what I fought." The crystal glowed. Images filled the room, cities burning, skies full of metal creatures, ships shaped like twisted bones. Ilari stood at his side, silent. The council members looked at each other, their faces hard to read. Then one of them, Counselor Rozek, leaned forward, tapping his long fingers together. "And why should we believe you?" he asked slowly. The human blinked. "I nearly died bringing this back." "Or perhaps," Rozek said, voice calm, "you created these images with your stolen armor. Perhaps you want to stir fear. Take command, create chaos." "That's not true," Ilari said firmly. But Rozek wasn't looking at her. His eyes were locked on the human. "You are not one of us. You wear armor that should not belong to you. The more power you gain, the more danger we are in." "I didn't ask for this," the human said, voice steady, "but I won't run from it either." The room buzzed again. The council whispered among themselves, but behind the calm faces, something darker was at play. Later that night, inside the lower halls of the outpost, 2 shadowy figures met. One of them removed his hood, Counselor Rozek. The other was a masked alien, his skin marked with dark circuits. His voice crackled like broken glass. "The human is waking the armor's full power. We cannot let him complete the bond." Rozek's eyes narrowed. "Then we move now." He handed the masked figure a small black cube sealed and humming. "Send this beacon to the edge of the system. Let them come. Let the dread fleet finish what we cannot." The next morning, alarms screamed across the outpost. The armor inside the human's chamber pulsed with bright, violent light. He woke with a jolt. "Something's wrong." Ilari burst into the room. "We've been betrayed. Someone sent a signal out, a beacon. The dread fleet knows where we are." Before they could move, the sky turned red. Hundreds of enemy drones dropped from orbit, dark and buzzing like locusts. The defense systems activated, but too late. Explosions rocked the outpost. The walls cracked. Fires lit up the towers. The human rushed to the upper deck, Ilari beside him. As he looked down, he saw the gates burst open, waves of enemy machines storming in, and among them, The masked figure walked calmly. The armor recognized him instantly. Dreadbound. Unit detected. Warning. Corrupted code. Former protector. Turned traitor. The human clenched his fists. Razek's betrayal wasn't just political. He had made a deal with a former protector, someone who once wore the armor and had given it to darkness. In the chaos, the council tried to escape. Razek ran with them, pretending shock, but Ilari saw the truth. She grabbed his arm. "You did this," he smiled coldly. "Your people never had the courage to finish what was needed. This human, he'll bring the end of everything. I only lit the match." She struck him, knocking him out, then ran to rejoin the human. The human met the masked traitor in the center of the battlefield. Smoke and ash swirled around them. The traitor's armor was twisted and jagged, its light no longer blue, but sickly red. "You think your bond is pure," the traitor growled. "But the armor doesn't care about right or wrong. It only cares who survives." The human raised his arm. A shield formed in front of him. "Then let's see who survives today." They charged. The clash shook the ground. The traitor moved. With perfect skill, he had once been trained, just like the human now was. But the human had something more. He wasn't fighting to rule. He was fighting to protect. During the battle, Ilari rushed to the central core. Enemy drones were trying to shut down the shield grid. She fought them with a staff, dodging blasts, slamming one into the wall. She reached the main panel and activated the override. A pave wave of blue light spread across the sky. The planetary shields came back online. The drones outside were stopped. Inside, the human stood above the fallen traitor, breathing hard. The corrupted armor sparked. The traitor smiled with broken teeth. "You're too late. The fleet is already coming." The human raised his fist, then hesitated. The armor whispered, "Choice, kill or spare." He lowered his hand. "No," he said. "You don't deserve mercy, but I won't become like you." He turned away. The traitor lay still. Ilari arrived beside him, panting. "You stopped him." He looked around. The smoke, the flames, the silence. "For now," he said. "But we've lost too much time. The real war hasn't even started." Above them, the stars flickered, and far, far in the distance, the dread fleet moved. The sky tore open like paper. One by one, black ships of the dread fleet dropped out of warp, surrounding the planet like hungry vultures. They didn't roar. They didn't announce their arrival. They just appeared, silent, massive, and ready. Inside the outpost, everyone froze. For the first time in many generations, the stars no longer felt safe. The shield Ilari had activated still covered the outpost, but everyone knew it wouldn't hold forever. The dread fleet didn't rush. They waited, circling like predators, studying the weakness of their prey. The human stood on the high tower, watching them. The armor around him felt heavier than before, not because of weight, but because of purpose. Behind him, Ilari approached. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were full of fire. "They're not sending a message," she said. "They never do," he replied. The armor pulsed softly on his chest. Symbols lit up on his arms, and a voice echoed within his mind. "Engage. Battle sequence unlocked. Full armor protocol ready." He nodded. Today was not for hiding. Today was for fighting. The outpost had only 5 defense ships left. Small, outdated, and barely battle-ready. But the human didn't care. He didn't need them to win. He just needed them to hold the sky. Ilari led the launch team. "Load all weapons. Prepare for full orbital combat. Keep the city shield running at all costs." As the human entered his ship, the armor fused with its core systems again. Blue light filled the cockpit. Everything obeyed his thoughts. The ship didn't fly, it moved with him. He launched into the sky. The dread fleet responded. Dozens of enemy drones poured toward him, black and sharp. Glowing red with dark energy. He flew through them like a blade through smoke. His ship twisted, dodged, struck. Missiles curved behind him, but the armor read them before they came close. He unleashed plasma rounds from both sides, blasting enemies into sparks. But for every one he destroyed, 5 more took its place. A massive carrier ship appeared above the planet, 10 times larger than any alien vessel. It opened slowly, revealing a glowing cannon the size of a city. The human's eyes narrowed. "That cannon will wipe out the shield," he said from the comms. Alari's voice crackled. "Then we stop it, together." Her ship rose beside his, followed by 3 others. Small but brave, she looked at him across the void. "You lead." He nodded. And the final battle began. The dread fleet launched black beams toward the planet. The shields held, but cracks began to form. Inside the cannon ship, machines moved like insects, preparing for the final charge. The human ship shot forward, dodging enemy fire, cutting through waves of drones. Alari flew behind him, clearing his path. They reached the outer hull. "We only get one shot," she said. He landed on the surface of the giant ship. The armor opened, letting him step out into space. He didn't float. The armor adjusted gravity around him. He ran across the hull like it was ground. Enemy bots rose from the metal, dozens of them. Some crawled like spiders. Others flew with wings of shadow. He fought with his bare hands. The armor formed weapons as he moved: swords, shields, even energy whips. Each one lasted only seconds before becoming something else. The battle was brutal. He was fast, but they were many. A blow struck his shoulder. He fell to one knee. A red blade slashed across his chest. But then Alari landed beside him. Her staff glowed bright. "I told you." Together, back to back, they fought. 2 against hundreds. And somehow, they held the line. The human reached the core entrance. He placed his palm on the door. The armor spoke. Final lock recognized. Weapon override engaged. The cannon began to power down, but something else awoke. The ship itself shook. A new enemy rose from deep within, twice the size of a man, cloaked in red and silver. It looked like a mix of armor and bones, and its voice was like a storm. "Protector, the stars no longer belong to you." The human took a deep breath. "Then I'll take them back." They clashed. The force of each strike lit up space. The enemy moved with inhuman speed, but the armor adapted. Each time the human was struck, the armor changed, learning, upgrading. Alari used her staff to blind the enemy's sensors. The human charged, punching through the chest plate. One final blast of light exploded from his gauntlet, knocking the creature off the ship into the void. The cannon shut down. The dread fleet paused. Their connection was broken. Some ships turned. Others simply went dark. They had lost their lead signal. For now the battle was over. Back in the outpost, cheers echoed. The shield held. The enemy had been pushed back. The human stood beside Alari on the observation deck. His armor was cracked, glowing. Softly. He was tired. But standing. Alari looked at him. "You did it." He shook his head. "We did," she smiled. "But they'll return." "I know," he said. And then the stars were quiet again. But it wasn't peace. It was the silence before the storm. The dread fleet had retreated for now. Their lead ship was gone, their cannon disabled, and their swarm scattered. But the human knew deep inside, this wasn't the end. It was only the pause. The calm breath before the galaxy screamed again. Inside the recovery chamber, the human lay still. The armor, cracked and dim, pulsed softly around him. His body was weak, his energy drained. And yet his mind felt sharper than ever, filled with voices, memories, not his own. He had fought. He had survived. But now something inside the armor had changed. It whispered. Not words, but feelings. It was afraid. Alari sat beside him, watching. She had wrapped her hand around his. No more jokes, no more smirks, just quiet. And concerned. When he finally opened his eyes, he whispered, "Did we win?" She smiled slightly. "You lived. That's more than we expected." He smiled weakly. "That's not a no." She leaned forward. The fleet pulled back. "But we intercepted something." Before they vanished, she pulled out a crystal and activated it. A hologram appeared, deep space, a strange nebula. And from it, something enormous moving, not a ship, not a swarm, but a being. A living dreadnought, larger than cities, made of black stone and starfire. The pavire that is the dialba. Armor flared slightly around him, that it had seen this before. Final entity, the Eater of Systems. Power class, World Ender. Status, returning. The human sat up slowly. His wounds still ached, but he didn't care. "We stopped a scout. That thing ... is the war." That night, the armor did something it never had before. It opened fully. Peace. By peace, it slid off his body, but didn't fall. It hovered around him like a sphere of light. And then, it began to change. It broke apart. Then reformed. Not as a suit, but as a second skin, liquid metal that fused with his body, becoming part of him. His bones felt stronger. His eyes saw deeper. He didn't wear the armor now. He was the armor. Ilari entered the chamber and stopped mid-step. She stared at him. He stood taller. His skin shimmered with strange lines. His voice, when he spoke, echoed slightly. "It accepted me completely. You look not human," she said carefully. He turned to her. "I'm still me. But now I'm also them." He looked up, his vision piercing clouds and orbit. They feared this. The council, even the enemy, that a protector would rise again. Not bound by old laws or ancient names, but by choice. He stepped forward. The ground didn't shake. But the air around him felt different. Like the world itself was listening. The next day, the council gathered again. This time, they didn't sit above him. They stood before him, equal, silent. Ilari stood beside him. Proud. The human looked each of them in the eye. "I am not asking for control," he said. "I don't want thrones. I don't want glory." He stepped closer. "But I will not ask your permission to protect those who can't protect themselves." Soft ripple passed through the chamber. Some nodded. Others simply stepped aside. They had feared him now. They needed him. He began building. Not ships, weapons, but beacons. Signal towers across the system. Silent guardians to detect the dread fleet the moment it stirred again. He taught others how to resist, how to fight. He shared what the armor taught him, the ancient ways, the forgotten truths. He visited destroyed moons. He helped rebuild burned cities, wherever people stood in fear. He went, a myth walking among stars. One night, Ilari stood with him on the edge of a canyon world, wind rushing past them. "You never said why you stayed," she said. "You could have gone home." He looked at the sky. "I think this is my home now." She smiled softly. "Even if the stars try to kill you again?" He chuckled. "Especially then." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "The people believe in you." He turned. "And you?" She didn't answer with words. She stepped closer, resting her forehead against his. The stars shined above them. Quiet for now. Later, as the armor wrapped him again for patrol, it spoke softly in his mind. "You are no longer just the chosen. You are the symbol, the warning, the promise." And so he flew again through broken skies and reborn cities. Some called him a hero, some called him a myth, but all across the stars, they knew his name, the one the armor awakened for, the human who wasn't supposed to be chosen, but became everything the galaxy feared, and everything it now hoped for.